Hey everyone, so figured I got both babies down for a nap. So today is, yesterday we got home around, I don't even remember, I think 1 o'clock. So it's 1 o'clock-ish now. So basically we've been home for 24 hours and so Adeline I put down for a nap first. So she's in her bassinet, and then I just got Paxton down for a nap, so now they're both napping. So I figured I would quickly do a little video of kind of how things went down in the hospital, because we didn't really film much, and I'll kind of explain that. But now since it's all still kind of fresh in my memory, so I don't remember what I've vlogged or talked about, so some of it might be like repetitive, but essentially I had my appointment on Thursday, and it was my checkup appointment because I wanted to have one more membrane sweep done before the induction date, which was set for Saturday. So that would have been July 23rd. And I wanted another sweep because I wanted to go naturally into labor as opposed to me getting induced. And so that was kind of like an appointment that I didn't have to have. They kind of said, if I wanted to do another sweep, I could come in, and otherwise they would just see me either when I'm in labor or when the induction date is. So at 39 weeks, like I said, Thursday I went in for a sweep. The sweep wasn't until 4:40, so it was the last appointment for the office, I believe. So I went in, did the sweep. So that was my second sweep. And then as we were heading to where we were going to eat, because Ari and I had talked, we said we want to eat again just in case things do start moving. Plus it was, like I said, my appointment was at 4:40, so it was around dinner time, and if we would have driven straight home, by the time we would have gotten home, we would have had to then get essentially Paxton ready for bed, and then we wouldn't have eaten until way late. So we said that we would eat and then walk around a little bit, and that way, I can get things moving a little bit more, since after the sweep, it obviously irritates things. And then we said that obviously depending on what happened, we would either stay or head home. And so that's what we did. We ate, and then basically while we were figuring out what we were eating, I was having really strong contractions. And because I had done a sweep earlier, I knew it was different, because with earlier sweep, it was just cramping more so, kind of like when you do it sometimes after a pap smear, you can have some cramping down there. And this was pretty intense. And it would, come and go in waves, and it would, start off not super painful, and then it would kind of get really painful and then kind of drop off. So it was definitely a contraction. But again, I didn't know. I was thinking, well, I don't know, is this the real deal? Because I had contractions, earlier. And I didn't know, did the sweep just, kind of, set things in motion, but then things were going to slow back down and settle down. So I told Ari, well, let's just kind of see. And so we ate, and then like I said, there was a Whole Foods right next to where we ate. So we actually ate at Cava because we ate there the previous time, and this was my second time eating at Cava, and I really liked it, the salad. And so we decided on that again. And then there's a Whole Foods next door. So after we ate, we went to Whole Foods, and we kind of just perused and walked the aisles, and I could basically in every aisle I had to stop and really breathe through my contractions. And at that point we weren't really timing them, but obviously in each aisle, I'm not that slow walking through the aisles, but in each aisle, like I said, I had to stop. And then Ari and I were kind of talking, and we said, well, it was getting close to Paxton's bedtime, and so we said, well, if we want to put him down for bed, then we kind of need to hit the road, and otherwise we need to let my mom know that, hey, we're not coming home, and we need to kind of prep Paxton, and then have her obviously put him down for bed. And I told Ari, I was like, well, I don't know if this is the real thing, and I won't know until, they continue, because I've had the contractions in the past where they, were pretty consistent for, an hour, hour and a half, but then all of a sudden they like completely went away and didn't come back. So I didn't know if that was going to happen again. So I said, well, we either wait it out here, but then if it is nothing, then we're just pushing Paxton's bedtime out. And so I said, let's just head home. And then as we were heading home, like I was having contractions more. And Ari was like, are you sure this is a good idea? And I was like, I don't know, maybe we should just stop and see, so to speak. And I was coming up on when I was going to take my next heparin dose. Now, obviously, if you're in labor, then I would have needed to not take the heparin dose. And it was kind of, well, I didn't know at that point. So I said, okay, well, let's just stop at the hospital. Worst case scenario, they say no, and then we leave and whatever. So we get there, they check us in, and hook me up to a monitor and everything. And then at that point, we started timing them, and my contractions were, at the beginning, they were 8 minutes apart, but then they, picked up and they were 5 minutes apart. And then the doctor came in and she checked me, and at that point, so at the sweep, I was only 1.5 centimeters dilated and 30% effaced. But then when the doctor came in at the hospital, at that point I was 3 centimeters, so still not like a massive amount, but and 80% effaced. So I definitely like progressed significantly in I don't know what that time frame, which was like 3 hours or so from when I had the sweep done. So definitely changes were happening. And then she said that right then and there, she was like, well, we're going to keep you because there's no point in sending you home. She was like, first off, in like 24 hours, you'll be coming back anyways for an induction. And then second, like you obviously did progress since you were sweep at 440, which was only, a little bit ago. And then obviously you are contracting, every 5 minutes, and you live far away. So I'm not going to send you home and have you, come back an hour later. And she was like, and lastly, she was like, I really don't feel comfortable sending you home because they had noticed that baby's heart rate was dropping. So with the contractions, so I was having, she was having some decelerations with the contractions. And so she didn't want to send me home. She said she wasn't overly concerned because at that point it just happened, like every so often. It wasn't every single contraction. So she said, maybe sometimes she was just, the cord was just, she was either holding onto it and squeezing it or something, because it didn't happen with every contraction. So she didn't feel like baby was in like distress at that moment. But she said, definitely just better safe than sorry, like you're staying. So then they got me all set up and they asked, what my birth plan was, which I told them that my birth plan basically was obviously me and baby healthy and alive. And then second, that, I wanted to get home to my 2-year-old. So I wanted things to kind of go fast. And so I said, I definitely, this time around, want to, get the Pitocin to get things moving quickly. And then also, I'll do the epidural because I know with Paxton, I wanted to really try natural, and I did make it very far. I labored with him naturally so my water broke, so we showed up at the hospital with him at 11, and then I didn't really get an epidural until like 3, so whatever that is, like a little over 12 hours, I don't know, 15 hours maybe. And for him, again, my water broke at night. We didn't have any sleep. And so at that point, the doctors with Paxton were kind of pushing and saying, hey, you should probably get an epidural because you may not even have like the energy to push, if we don't do this type of deal. And then this time around, again, it was starting at night. So I said, no, like, give me an epidural. Let's do the Pitocin, and that way we can kind of really go hard on the Pitocin and get things moving. And anyway, so long story short, they put me in the room, did the Pitocin epidural, and responded well to the Pitocin at first. Everything was, progressing. They were monitoring the baby, still sporadic every so often. She would have decelerations. But then on the Pitocin, I kind of stopped progressing. Like my contractions were 2 centimeters apart, but I didn't dilate anymore. So at that point, I was only 4 centimeters dilated. So like really stopped in that front. And so they broke my water. I want to say it was around 5 that they broke my water, 5 a.m. And at this point, didn't sleep at all because whenever I'm there, I just get so nervous, and especially because of the decelerations, I was just like staring at the monitor, and every time, she'd move and, we'd lose the heart rate, I would be like, okay, please fix it, because I wanted to make sure that, it was just that she moved and not that all of a sudden, there was no heartbeat. But anyways, so then they broke my water around 5 a.m. And then they like put me in a different position. So I was basically just sitting upright at that point, because the nurse was saying, it seems that she doesn't like when I was laying on either side, because we kept seeing if different positions caused less of the deceleration. So then I was sitting upright, and she seemed to be doing fine with that. And then it was literally like I remember I kept staring at the screen, and then I must have just dozed off, because then the nurse comes running in. She's like, I need to adjust it. And I was looking at the screen then, because I was like, okay. And she found the heartbeat, but it was 60, so obviously very low. And then she was like, okay, she was like, I'm gonna get the doctors in here. And then obviously the doctors already saw that drop had happened, and they immediately came in, and they were like, we need to see if you're ready to push. And they checked. Luckily, I was 10 centimeters dilated, 100% effaced at that point. So they were like, we're pushing now. And at that point, everything had already been set up, because once they broke my water, they already set up everything. So literally they came in, and I delivered 7 minutes later, because I only pushed for 7 minutes, which was good, because with Paxton I pushed for 4 hours, which obviously this time around they wouldn't have even let me do that, because I know that if I wouldn't have been ready, they would have taken me back to the OR to do a C-section, because obviously her heart rate had dropped significantly, and they needed to get her out kind of stat. So it was nerve-wracking at that point, to say the least. And yeah, during my pushes, I was like crying, because I was just like worried about her and her heart and everything. Even now, talking about it. But anyway, she's fine, obviously. But I'm obviously hormonal. But anyways, it's just is nerve-wracking. But she's here, she's healthy, and everything is good. So that's nice, obviously, because what more could you want? And then, yeah, so that's kind of her birth story. That's why we didn't really film like in the much, because obviously we were preoccupied. And yeah, so that's what happened. And then we do have some pictures, because before the craziness happened, I had asked the nurse, if there was an extra person in the room, if they could take my husband's phone and take some pictures. And there was an extra person, and there were actually a lot of people in the room whenever I was delivering. And one of the ladies, grabbed the phone and was like running all over the place taking pictures. So I still have pictures of the experience and everything. Actually, very graphic pictures. She has, she took pictures of the baby crowning and all kinds of stuff. And then she took a whole bunch of pictures of my placenta, and some very awkward angle pictures. But So we have lots of pictures, but obviously I won't be sharing them because they're kind of graphic. But anyway, so that's kind of Adeline's birth story. And then, yeah, this was probably a long video, so I'm not going to go into any other details of the hospital stay. So maybe I'll do another video later. But yeah, so she's here, she's healthy, and we're at home. And yeah, I'll be sharing more of her and sharing, you know, Paxton's first interaction and things like that. So hopefully you guys enjoy, you know, seeing her because yeah, she makes us very happy.
Just gonna make
She'll want more.
Okay, okay. There you go. You can't hold your breath anymore. Adeline, is that her name? Daddy, you cutting the cord?
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Sweetie. Oh, I know. I know. All right, Dad.
Well, you didn't push for.
You guys were okay with vitamin K and everything?
Yes.
Did they like talk to okay, so I'm gonna go grab those. Okay. Her being to do that.
Okay, the fever or?
Yeah. So once I get you like all situated, we'll help you kind of.
Okay, so I should still wait a little.
That was killing me. Like, should I go get the dog?
Look at them pretty eyes. You can have the same color eyes as your brother. Yeah. Yeah, he's gonna protect you. Yeah. Yeah. I love you. Are you excited to meet him? His name's Paxton. Yeah. He's a little rough. But he'll be gentle with you, okay? Oh, look at her yawning. Hee. You're so cute. She has so much fur next on her. Like, he didn't have much.
I don't remember him having any.
And you're like a slimy monster. Looks like you were dunked in mayo. Yeah. 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 You cutie patootie.